As part of a .NET Maui project, we also have a folder called raw, which we have not seen so far. This folder will allow us to add files other than images and fonts. We can add, for example, PDF files, presentation files, Excel files, Word files, and any other you need. Inside the raw folder, we have a file called About Assets, which describes how we can use the resources located inside this folder. In our example, we're going to use a JSON file to carry out the deserialization of the content. I will proceed to drag and drop the file name data.json. Once I've imported the file, I'm going to open it to show you that it only contains a couple of JSON properties, one called name and one called age. These are the properties that we're going to deserialize. As part of the About Assets file, we're shown a method that we can use to perform the reading of one of the files that are part of this folder. Then I'm going to proceed to copy this method. I'm going to go to the file mainpage.saml.cs, and under the main page method, I am going to proceed to paste the method that we copied previously. Inside this method, we use a class called FileSystem, which contains a method called OpenAppPackageFileAsync, which will allow us to read the files from the raw folder. We have to specify the name of the file that we want to read. In this case, the file is called data.json. Therefore, it is the name that we will use. Subsequently, the creation of a reader is carried out where we assign the stream that we have created previously. And finally, the content is read through the read-to-end method. To carry out a correct deserialization of the text file, I will proceed to paste a new class, which is a very simple class called person, and that contains the pair of properties that correspond to the JSON file that we have seen previously. Once we have read the contents of the file, we're going to indicate that we want to create, for example, a variable called p, which is equal to, and we use the class JSON serialize. We have to import the namespace that is needed, which is system.text.json, and then we have to use the method called deserialize to perform the deserialization to a person type. Let's indicate that we want to read the contents of the variable contents, which is a text string. Once we have created the method, we need to call it from somewhere. Perhaps you could think that we could invoke it from the constructor, but the most correct thing is to invoke it from a method that we can override, which is called onAppearing. This is because as part of this method, we can indicate that this is a method where we will use asynchronous methods. And from here, we can invoke the load Maui asset method. Once we have done this, let's place a breakpoint at the end of the method to see the content of the p variable. Let's start the execution of the application. And once we get to the breakpoint, we can visualize the results in the variable p. We can already see that we have obtained the values for the properties name and age. In the same way, we could, for example, carry out the reading of a PDF file and display it in a control that accepts this type of documents.